Hey people, I posted this movie, The Cannibals, yesterday, aka The Priest of Baal, Cannibal. And you might want to watch it first. This is the punchline. I'll leave the link right up here. So it seems the scholars aren't very good at putting together puzzles, but the Mayan word for the priest is the same as the Hebrew word for priest. They were the Akin. And the African word for Venus was the same as the Mayan word for Venus, or Shaka, woman of fire. That's Venus. It was the Shak-ek. And it was the same as the Indian word for Venus. Shiva was the sun, and when Venus dies as the evening star, it dies one day, and then there's 7 days of mourning, Shiva. And that comes from the 7 days that you're waiting to see the morning star. You'll see Venus in the evening star after the sun goes down. And it'll be diving back toward the sun as it's coming toward us, between us and the sun. And it'll dive, every so often it'll dive into the sun, last in 2012. It'll dive into the sun and you won't see it for 7 more days before it comes back out. Before the sun gives birth to Venus. It'll go right on through. And so when it does, that's when the sun gives it its kingship. Venus is going to sit here for a while. It's going to sit here as it goes around. It appears it's not moving. It's staying in the same place. And it's given its kingship. And it's not going to start moving until it gets to the farther side. Then it's going to start coming back around. And it's going to move real fast then. It's going to go across the sky. It's going to dive back through the sun, and it'll be traveling across the sky until it slows down to come back on our side again. It's a morning star for 263 days, and then it's absent for 50 days when it's on the other side. And that's because the sun's pivoting between us. It's going one way and we going the other. And then 263 days is the evening star, and then it dives in and dies. It dies one day and spend 7 days in mourning. And that's where they're getting this. That's where this is Shiva here. They give it the 7. But you'll see in the name above that they give it another word in Jehoshaphat. This is Yahweh the Lord. And they say that the Shiva here means has sworn. But they often say this is sevens or week or things like that. But if they were to stay true to the way they read these, this would be you, the Lord, and 7. The Lord 7. The Lord of 7, that's Venus. Venus, the Lord of 7. So I read this last paragraph of Numbers 11. It's called, You Yada, the Lord knows, restores worship. It's where I found the word cannibal. But it looked like this, it was this paragraph 17, 18, 19, and 20, and it ended with a full stop. And then you can see this is the signature, or it's the pseudonym of the writer. And so don't miss the movie, The Cannibal. I give a really good reading on this. I'm pretty sure it's my best reading ever. And it's talking about the woman of war, the cannibal, the priest of Baal. And it's talking about her like she's a old gang-banged whore. And then at the end, he signed it. And you can see here, this old, this is Ben. And they always say that this is a male child, a son, a grandson, a member of a group, a son, a male child. And I say it means Ben as in a period of time spent. And then if you're reading it with the tack here, it's OV, and Ben of Shiva's Signum, and for signs of the times, the years, you see it says year, but it's a division of time, a measurement of time, indication of age, a lifetime. Well, like the word time is in there a lot more than year, and it's the signs. And so it's, the son of Shiva. The son of Shiva is Venus. The sun gives birth to Venus. And that's where the word Venus comes from. That's VNS here. The Venus in C. Venus in C. The signs. And then this is would be the Lord, and as, which they'll say is fire. And they'll say this is given by the Lord, but they always say this as is fire. But the VA is reading as a TE. And what this reads is a YET and yet an ES. The yet is mean has not yet is. And they'll say this is became most of it. Just say this means became, and meaning to become king or queen. But it means in, and then Malku. And this would be in, and they'll read the Vav next as your, and then king, or in his king. And if this was ended with a T, they'll tell you that means the kingdom. In the kingdom is your kingdom. But what this says is Ben of Shiva's signs yet is, not, hasn't yet, but will be in Malkut, in your kingdom. And has not yet assigned them. Has not yet. You see that here. Assign them. And the sons in assign them yet is in his kingship. And it means, it's not been assigned his position in the heavens yet. And so this is a pseudonym of the writer. Maybe it's telling you his birthday, the day he was born, where Venus was. Or maybe the entire book was written by the heavens, and it's a book of time. And he's letting you know that's the biggest hand of the clock in the Mayan culture was Venus. It was the biggest hand on the clock. And Ben of Shiva, the son of Shiva's signum yet as, is not yet assigned him in his kingdom. And so that would be that point where Venus appears to stop in the heavens and spends the time in that same group of stars and doesn't move. And Ben of Shiva's signum yet has, not is in kingdom. And so this is the first time this word comes up, first of 17. And then it'll come up in the next 2 or 3 chapters, 17, 16 more times. And I'm sure they have a hard time placing it because not like all the other names have many different spellings. It'll be in your ass or to your ass, L, they start with an L or an E or a B. But it's always spelt the same way in this one. Not always read the same, because sometimes the word in front of it have a tack, having it read backwards. And that'll give it an also why. And then back the other way, it is. And also why it is. And that started with a malachim, that's the angel. You say messenger here, but that's the same word. They give angels. The angels also why it is. And Judah ben so why it is. You see, they give the ben the right meaning sometimes. But this ben is common in Arabic names. And, that's one of the reasons I stopped reading the Quran. I studied into it for a day and a half. And when I started reading the 10 names of the people who put that book together, their names was like Ben with a man. And I figured out quickly that was just another book copied off the bathroom wall from a traveling merchant, Muhammad. They say he was a traveling merchant. The beginning of the story, he says he can't read or write, so that makes no sense at all. There's no way that's the people who could read and write were the traveling merchants. And this is why the game of Santa Claus and Easter Bunny, all that pretend stuff, it's not healthy, because if you tell your children that and you die before you have a chance to tell them otherwise, they go on believing this shit. They never can put it together after that. Why would my parents lie to me? So I told you that last paragraph, it's about a gang bang. The war machine gang bang. And it's in Venus. The Venus in a sign yet is its kingdom. Hasn't been yet assigned its kingdom. And the top lines are always easier to read. If you go and read the back of the book, read the finish, It makes better sense of the beginning. And you'll see it in here if you read between the lines, but it's talking about the royal heirs and daughter of the king, and stole away him from among the sons of the king, being murdered, and his nurse in the bedroom they hid. And this bedroom's coming from right here, the BHD, to better. And it's, the debt, DET, the debt determinative, a debt and then backwards. And what funum, F-N-I-M, Q-N-I-M, and that's the word is and paid for, funum. And what funum inov to a better, and that's a prostitute. You got to pay the whore. What funum inov to better. And that's why down here they use the word escorts. And so you don't see it all until you come back and read it with the mark. And it's what jerk cry, what the mixer, the richum. The mixer, that's where a gang bang, that's where all the rich people go and have a mixer. They all swap partners. The mixer, the ritzum, ritz, rich. So don't miss the Cannibals. Here it is right up here. And I give a good reading on this just straight through. I don't obey all the directional markings. I just read the top layer, and I'll show you a little bit about what it reads with the directional markings after. But this is the origin of the cannibal. It's the priest. It's the Hebrew priest, it's the Mayan priest, and the Baal, the war. And the priest of war is the cannibal. And he's also the butcher cannibal. And that's why they're telling you history book, when the Americans got here and they wrote back to Europe and they said, there's cannibals here. The priest of war, he's the cannibal. And the one on the altar, M's the bitch to, the sacrificed. So I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.